My resting rich face videos always do so well because, according to this article, wealthy people attract better mates. I'm not putting that out there, it's just the science, but our brains have 3 different modalities for judging facial attractiveness. We have one for identification, one for interpretation, and another one for valuing. And our brains are busy at work before we're ever even conscious of it, making decisions about somebody's value, even our own value when we look in the mirror, based on things like proportions, texture, and color. And we use makeup and hair color and extensions to deceive people. And we even deceive ourselves and promote higher value to ourselves. So there's a lot going on that we don't really want to talk about, but that's why I'm here. We're going to talk about it. And today we're going to use the Science of Pretty duo to do like a level 2 resting rich face. Okay. If you need to shape your face, you need to do some contouring and some highlighting to get better proportions. I'm going to show you how to do that. And then we're going to go over the top of it with the Charlotte Tilbury Flawless Filter. Also highly recommend the e.l.f. Halo Glow. I'm using shade 4, and the e.l.f. Halo Glow in shade 4 is what I would use also. They're both fantastic. So let's get started. Always eat your frog first and start with the hardest one. Wipe off the tip. The more time you spend wiping off this tip, the less time you will spend blending. You'll want to make sure that your face is very hydrated. A cream, foundation, or concealer is always going to show you where you have not exfoliated and where you are not ultimately hydrated. So I'm gonna go in right here, a little C shape on the forehead, and I'll be able to pull some of that one over to that side, just a tiny bit on the nose. Then here and here, you'd want to skip these chin areas if your chin is too forward. Then I'll go in and just kind of barely wipe this one off, and I'm going to make kind of 11s right down the nasolabial lines and the marionette lines. I'm going to cover my chin a little bit and the forehead. And then I'm going to take my giant siren brush from Because Cosmetics, and I'm going to start blending. And you can blend this however you want, but I am here to tell you that pulling on your face for 1.5 seconds while you're doing makeup is not going to age you. Pulling on your face for hours a day, probably still not going to age you. I mean, whatever side you sleep on isn't affected. So the, muscle memory is pretty strong. But you can use a beauty blender. You can use the Morphe V102 brush. I really like this one. I'll use it over here. A little smaller and more able to do finite work, but takes a little longer too. So I'm always about video speed over absolute quality because I know you guys are going to blend until your heart is satisfied. So if you do the dark one first, you're going to have a little bit of color in the brush that helps mediate the brightness of the white highlighter, which is why I like to do the dark one first. Get a little bit on the nose. Okay, now we're just going to go right in with the Charlotte Tilbury Flawless Filter. This is literally what I do every time, even when I'm not making a video. That's my swipe pattern. And I do have a contour pattern, like a drawing, if you want to know exactly where you should be putting this and you want to follow a more precise pattern. You can email me for that. My email is in the bio, and just put the word list in the subject line and you'll get my list of lots of stuff. It's big. Okay. Look at that. I feel when I say my face looks real, sometimes I get comments from people that are like, of course it looks real. No, it doesn't. When you see someone who has a very obvious heavy makeup look, you start discounting them. That is in our value system. It's built into our brains. It's built into society. We can't escape it. We can argue about it all day long, but it is what it is, and it's real, and your face needs to look real. It needs to look like your real skin based on the color of your chest. Mine always turns red when I film, based on your arms. And my face, my body is not perfect, so my face should not look perfect. So if I were to do Barbie perfect plasticky looking makeup, immediately somebody looks at me and they start discounting what I'm saying. I want them locked on my eyes. I don't want to look too perfect. I don't mind if there are some shadows here and there is some imperfection. As long as it looks like it's real skin imperfection, I am still making an improvement. So am I deceiving? Yes. But we want to deceive in as minimal a way as possible so that we can deceive better. I'm going to set under my eyes with the Science of Pretty Cool Matte Powder. I want to get right under there and then follow all of the areas where I highlighted. So down this part of the face, the forehead, and the chin. And this is really going to do a good job of keeping my mascara from transferring under my eyes and any other products that I put on my eyes from transferring below the eyes. The powder it's really necessary. If you're afraid of powder, it's one of the reasons your makeup isn't better. What we've done is bring this part of the face forward. We pushed the nose back, and we pushed this part of the face back, and we pulled this part forward. That's just feminizing the face so that it's a little bit more narrow this way and less wide. You may not need to do that. There are a lot of people with very small heads, very angular shapes where this would absolutely not work. But if your face is like mine and kind of flat and kind of round or heavy, then this is super valuable. But just about everyone can benefit from at least the highlight right here, and right here. So even if you're not doing the contour to push things back, the highlight is almost always valuable. I'm using the Nearly Nude lipstick from Because Cosmetics as blush. I feel like it gives me a nice shine. It kind of works as a highlighter here and also gives me that natural flush in the cheeks without being too shimmery. And the contrast of this area being mattified with the cool powder and this area having shine means that I'm going to get some height in my cheekbones, which is a proportion that human nature just tends to reward as beautiful. Now, what we've really done here is take the redness out of my face and put it back exactly where I want it, just in the blush area. We've taken the darker brown melanin parts of my skin and contoured my face. We've taken the lighter parts and highlighted, and we've done that in just the right place. So we've manipulated all of those colors, tweaked them a tiny bit, and put them back in the right place so that the brain registers this as a very real face, because the whites of the eyes and the color, the iris of the eyes, the contrast between those is the greatest contrast on the face. And that is what keeps people locked in and seeing and hearing who you are and not distracted by the makeup on your face.